Hi, Namaste. Today I would like to talk about self-alignment and injuries in online yoga classes. It's an important topic since when you are practicing in your own space, online, either live or with a recorded video, you don't have a teacher to correct you, to look at you, to make some adjustments. Maybe if you're practicing live, the teacher can see you through the screen and say some extra things to help you, but otherwise you are basically on your own. If you are not so experienced and did not have a lot of practice inside a studio, I find it important to consider some points. In yoga, we practice poses which can be practiced in a way which is not useful or can hurt you. It will most probably not hurt you at once, except you are doing too much and tearing your muscles or tendons. But since we are repeating the same movements over and over again, it can lead to wrong patterns which can hurt you over time. So, self-alignment. For me, there are three ways, like main ways, how you can adjust yourself in your own body by practicing, during practicing. One first way is your gaze. So basically where you look. When you practice for yourself, you have your eyes, which you can bring towards parts of your body. Obviously, you cannot look at yourself from all the angles, but it's really helpful even to start with the feet. So either when you're in a standing position, Tadasana, or you are in a forward fold, or maybe in a downward facing dog, or you are in a warrior, you can always look down to your feet. See if they are, for example, in a standing position, that they are on the same level. If they are turned inward or outward, or maybe a little bit more, but a bit less, don't be too strict with yourself, because maybe the outward or inward position of your feet is anatomically absolutely correct for you, but it's good to know your patterns and with the time find out, hey, is it my own way, or maybe I already have a pattern which is not good for me, which can hurt my knees or my hips with the time. Just a simple awareness by looking at your body parts is a big deal here. The same thing is basically with your hands. When we are using our hands, when we are balancing on them, in downward facing dog, or even later maybe in some crowd pose, bakasana or whatever, you see your hands on the mat, you see how far together they are or apart, you see if you use your fingers, or maybe you are releasing them from the mat. Also, with the feet as well, if you are more on the outside or on the inside of your palms, or respectively the feet. That also matters, okay? Because it matters for your joints, for your wrists and your ankles. So finding the way where you are balancing approximately in the middle and using your toes, using your fingers. That's what you can do for yourself, being active, looking, being aware where you are standing with your feet and with your hands. Even, let's say you are in the second warrior, you can always look towards your back hand to see if it's up or down, or if it's more to the back or more to the front, and already then you will know if you want to adjust it in a way that it's more linear, that it feels good. You can see your knees in most of the positions if you're in a chair pose or if you're a lunge pose. When you look at your knee and you see that it's going inward, most probably it's not a good position. Most probably you want to bring it more outwards, right? There are other examples, obviously many more things, but let's start from there. Yeah, let's start from looking at our feet, hands, knees. Maybe sometimes you can even look at your elbows and so on. The other way to self-adjust yourself is the touch. So we have our hands. Sometimes if you're in a class, teacher comes to you and brings their hands on your shoulders or their hips. Even with a gentle touch, sometimes it can have a profound effect. Obviously, for ourselves, we have fewer possibilities, but still, let's take the hands to our hips. When we're feeling our hip bones, we can basically, just with the movement of the hands, of the fingers, bring the pelvis a little bit more to the back or a little bit more to the front. If you are just standing there in the mountain pose, you can find the position of your hips by actively moving them with your hands. Don't be too forceful, don't be too strong, don't want to like move it really. Just a simple, small touch or pressure. If you let the body be led by this touch, it will bring some effect. Another example is your bone, the chest bone here. Mostly, or many of us, we tend to collapse when we're seated. So just with the two fingers, bring this bone up without much force will absolutely bring your shoulders down. At the same time, don't forget to be more active around your navel, so you don't collapsing, like opening towards the hollow back, but bringing these lower ribs, which you can also touch, bringing them a little bit closer together. As well, you can touch your chin. You can touch the back of your head, lifting the back of your head. These are all the things the teachers do in a class, but you can do it yourself. It can be scary at first or strange to touch yourself in this way, but it's getting to know your body, but it's also getting to know your position in space, getting to know your anatomy, and in the end, it's really getting to know yourself. The last and most important means to self-adjust is the most basic thing, that's our breath. So we use the ocean breath, the ujjayi breath in our practice. And it has a lot of different reasons. And one of the reasons is absolutely the self-adjustment, meaning that if you can stay conscious and aware of your breath through the practice, you know that you are in more or less useful range of, oh, I'm not too lazy, but I'm not overdoing it. I'm in a position where I can breathe, so I'm not collapsing, and I'm also not getting too tight, because sometimes we want to do it right. We want the practice as well to be useful in sense of the workout, but then we stop to breathe, and when we don't breathe, we cannot feel. We're getting numb. We're having a shutdown of the nervous system, so we're basically in this crisis mode, and that's not a useful place to be. Anyways, not in life, except for really, really crisis situations. Otherwise, we always come back to our breath. So when we are breathing constantly and freely, we always know more or less where we are. We are not too tight, we are not collapsed, we are not bringing ourselves in this stressed position, but we can relax into every position, even if it is a strong one, even if we have to work really with our muscles, with the tonus of it, and even if we have to stay there in a plank or in a warrior or whatever it is. So breath is really like the most important thing of in terms of the self-adjustment. Maybe one last thing which brings me to the first point, which I would like to say now because I forgot before. The gaze, not only to the body parts, but also when your body is in an okay position, the gaze helps to adjust the position of the head. So even if your eyes are closed, so let's say you are looking down but when you are seated, so automatically you will be more collapsed in your chest. Even if your eyes are closed, when you are bringing your gaze to the horizon, then your head is automatically lifted, and then maybe bringing the chin a little bit down and to the back brings you into an aligned position where your column, your spine is all upright, okay? So that's the last thing about the gaze. Then, so we have self-adjustment by looking, by touching, and by breath. We do all of these things to prevent injury in asana practice. A part of bringing us forward in our practice, obviously, making us stronger, more mobile, more resilient. When we are practicing online, we really are on our own. And many practitioners injure themselves in yoga, even if maybe it does not seem obvious to you. There are some like more or less common injuries. For example, we overstretch our hamstrings, so we are stretching our hamstrings in the wrong way. So we are actually not stretching the body of the muscle, but we are stretching the attachment of the muscle to the bone. The tendons, they are not supposed to be stretched, and this connective tissue, the tendons, they don't profit if they are stretched. Basically, they become more loose the more we stretch them. And once we overstretch them, there can be a lot of pain, very unpleasant pain, like kind of inflammation, which can go on for weeks and weeks. So this is something we don't want. I will tell later how to avoid it, but for now, an example, overstretching the back of the legs, the hamstrings, is a big one. Second one is the lumbar spine, the weakest point of the spine where the vertebrae move a lot. So if we don't engage our core, and I mean the core, like not the front, but all the way around, like a barrel, which keeps us stable and safe. For example, in pushing up, when we are doing this like wavy movement, because we want to push up from our legs, but we are not strong enough. We don't want to use the knees, and then we are like pushing, 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 and then we are hanging in our lower back. And when we are doing it over and over again, that can hurt our lower back. Then another example are the shoulders. Especially, again, the push-ups, the going into chaturanga too low, going into it too much, too often, is not useful. Many practitioners injure their shoulders this way, this pinching pain in the front of the shoulders. We obviously have the cervical spine, the back of the neck, which can be hurt by doing shoulder stand, by going into a shoulder stand, forcing it. The neck is a really gentle part of our body and can be hurt by overdoing. Again, the wrists, for example, when we are staying too long in the downward facing dog or going too often and too much into hand balances without having enough strength in the lower arms, that can be too much for the wrists as well. Of course, many injuries, they are individual because we have our history, we have our predisposition. We also gather our injuries, even small ones, over time. So we can have like an ache here, an ache there. They are not too bad. We don't even go to doctor or a therapist about them, but they can gather in the body. And obviously, yoga is not a therapy, at least like yoga classes. So what we are doing is we are practicing in a way which is the safest possible. It is no guarantee still, but the safest way possible. Strengthening the body, strengthening especially our muscles around joints, keeping them mobile, keeping them away from being shortened. We can prevent some injuries by practicing yoga regularly. We can also alleviate some pain. People say a lot that yoga helps against back pain, but we have to be aware it's not a treatment. It's by moving our spine, often we just make the symptoms go away. Okay, we can strengthen things, but yoga in this sense is not a therapy, is not a cure. So, how to be aware and prevent the injuries? The main thing in our practice is basically not to go into the pain. And I'm saying not in our yoga practice, especially not in online one where you don't have feedback. That doesn't mean that you don't have to go in this pain never ever in your life, because sometimes you have to, and this sometimes is usually if you are having a therapy. So if you have been to a physiotherapy, you know that sometimes you have to go into this pain, but that's under the supervision of your therapist. So if you already have something, then maybe don't say like, yeah, it will go away by itself, because sometimes if you leave this even small injury untreated, it changes your body. It changes your, for example, if you injured your tendon, the muscles around it can be really stiff to hold it. Then they will shorten, and after a year or two, you are in some patterns which can affect other parts of your body, and your body loses mobility, loses flexibility, loses strength. So maybe it's better to go to a therapist to treat this first injury and come back to the range of motion and strength which you had before. But this is a part for the therapist, and we are practicing asana. And what we do in asana, we avoid unpleasant pain, unpleasant like feelings. That means everything which feels like sharp pain, pinching things, shoulders or wherever, everything which feels numb and electrifying, because that can affect your nerves, and nerves is also, yeah, they are they are hard. Once you have an injury in your nerve, that can be a long way till it's till it's cured. So, sharp pain, electrifying feeling, numbness in body parts. That's everything we want to avoid. Sometimes when we are going into positions, it does not feel comfortable, but this discomfort is like more numb. It's more. It's not sharp. It's. It has a bigger surface, and it's a feeling which is like, okay, I'm in a discomfort, but it's spread around a bigger surface, and my brain is not telling me, oh, attention, it's bad for me. Because yoga does not always mean comfort, pleasant feeling. It has to be challenging sometimes, but we have to differentiate when it's a useful feeling and when it's not. And here only your learning of your body and your awareness with the time, that's what helps. Even outside of yoga, that's your body, and no doctor, no therapist will tell you exactly what is really good and what's not so good, because the feelings are sometimes so differentiated and so subtle that only you with the time can tell, that's how it feels, because you're the only one who can be in your own body. Nobody can get into the feeling of your own body. So the best way is really by practicing, become more and more aware. First, the awareness is really on the surface. So you're perceiving some big things. But with the time, it will get more and more subtle. So you start to perceive smaller things, smaller feelings, suddenly feeling like separate toes, or noticing how you're moving just this small muscle. And it's a very rewarding feeling. It's a beautiful one. It's like having a connection to your body, being in a relationship with that. So that's what we want, and what we can develop on the level of the body by practicing asana, preventing ourselves from hurting ourselves, but also making the practice useful, and making it being a way, not stagnating, but a constant movement towards ourselves. So I wish you a safe practice. I wish you an enjoyable practice, and see you next time. Namaste.